Hello and welcome. This is View from the Top and I am Modeli Sharafa Yusuf. I thank you for joining us. There are many big things about Nigeria. It's the second largest producer of movies in the world and the largest producer of oil on the continent. It is the continent's biggest economy and has the world's largest diversity of butterflies. Nigeria is also the 8th most populous nation in the world. However, the true number of Nigerians has always remained a matter of estimates. Currently, Nigeria's population is said to be between 160 and 167 million, or sometimes 170 million, based on projections from the 2006 census, which at that time put the nation's population at 140 million. Apart from the grudgingly accepted figures from the 1963 census, any other one has been hotly disputed. As for the next head count, the controversy started well before the 2016 date. Festus Odumegwu was appointed chairman of the National Population Commission and tasked with conducting credible census in 2016. But despite expectations based on his record in private business, he couldn't stay long enough to deliver on his mandate. He was only chairman of the commission for about 16 months before resigning. More famous for his tenure as MD of Nigerian breweries, he kindly joins me today to discuss a wide range of issues, including partisan politics, the politics of the census, management of multinationals, and the general state of the nation. Thank you, Your Royal Majesty.
Thank you, Modela, for having me.
We'll get down to the conversation shortly, but here is a brief biography first. Festus Odumegwu was born on August 7, 1953. He was educated at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, from where he graduated with a first-class degree in chemistry, and Heriot-Watt University, Edinburgh, where he obtained his Master of Science degree. He also attended Stanford University Graduate School of Business, Wharton Business School, and Unilever 4 Acres Training Center. Odumegwu joined Nigeria Breweries PLC as a trainee brewer in 1980. In a career that spanned 26 years, he rose through the ranks to become sales director, marketing director, Lever Brothers Ghana, and finally MD CEO of Nigerian Breweries. In 2012, Festus Odumegwu was appointed chairman of the National Population Commission. But earlier he ran for the Imo State governorship seat on the platform of the PDP. You are one of those who are incensed by INEC's decision to postpone the elections. But in view of the security advisory, what other options were open to Professor Jega and his team?
Well, you know, the postponement of the election is very unfortunate because Jega already announced that INEC was ready to conduct the election. Even the service chiefs had announced that they are ready for the election. So without any doubt, it was the presidency that put pressure on them to postpone the election because the presidency was afraid that if the election took place on 14th of February, that he will have a massive defeat. APC would have had a landslide. So the first consideration is that the presidency wanted to slow down the momentum towards Buhari. And that is rigging with incumbency power, as it were. That is what it is. Every other argument up and down is not important. What happened is most unfortunate. But this is the aspect most Nigerians know, that the presidency forced the hand of INEC to postpone the election. If I was the chairman of INEC, I would not postpone the election. I will run the election as scheduled, and I will tell the president that it is his duty to provide security for the nation. And then the rest of the world will watch. And if he tries to force it physically, I will resign. So Jega's credibility is at stake, as far as I'm concerned.
But there was this security advisory saying, you know...
It's all contrived. There is no insecurity. Boko Haram is in 12, 14 local governments out of 774. We can have a peaceful election. And in any case, the Chief of Defense Staff had said almost a week or two before that we are ready. Jega himself has said we are ready until the National Security Advisor, professionals who pander to political inclinations, which is why Nigeria is in the mess that it is, began to suggest let us postpone the election. There was no reason whatsoever to postpone the election.
We are saying that the military has been compromised.
The military has been compromised a long time ago when you let corruption that comes from the top seep in all aspects of our national life. It is because the military is compromised that the war on Boko Haram is lasting and soldiers are running away. You read the papers. We shouldn't be discussing this because I don't like talking for the sake of talking. The military has been compromised a long time ago.
So but what will happen when we keep dragging institutions like the security agencies into politics?
It is very dangerous. The military being involved, the danger, the real danger, is that Jonathan lost control a long time ago. That these people have subtly hijacked the military and they are using them for their own aims when Jonathan thinks it is helping him to get organized and win. And the consequences of that is that Nigerians should be very, very vigilant. I will even say that APC should make sure that General Buhari's life is safe. Because the people that are contriving all these things are very vicious.
It is not PDP.
It is the presidency and PDP playing into their hands without knowing that they are playing into their hands. And that is the danger of the military being involved.
Before we leave the issue of elections, do you really believe that NEC was ready for those elections? And could this be a blessing in disguise?
INEC conducted the election in 2011. And since then, INEC has even gotten better. So if the election of 2011 was enough to put President Jonathan in office, now that they have gotten better, done better elections in Edo, Ekiti, and so on and so forth, whatever state they are in, they will do a better job on 14th of February, which they were not allowed to do. So INEC, of course, is ready.
Why are things like religion and tribe still important in Nigerian politics?
Look at what President Jonathan is doing. Religion and ethnicity and tribe has been part of the instrument the politicians of Nigeria have used to gain votes. They will say, oh, you are Igbo, you are Hausa, you are Yoruba, oh, your church. It shouldn't be. We people on their competence, on how they will deliver on the requirements of the office they are going into, and vote on that basis for the benefit of Nigeria and all Nigerians. But look at how President Jonathan has latched onto. He goes to churches, he kneels down in Redeem Camp, he goes to, I don't know their names, chosen people and things like that. They have South Assembly, and this is going to open up the divisive cleavages in Nigeria, and that is very dangerous.
And that brings me to the politics of population census. It is common knowledge that at the heart of all of these squabbles over population figures is resource sharing. Is it at all possible to conduct a controversy-free census in this country?
If you do not have accurate population census data, accurate demographics data in Nigeria, you cannot plan Nigeria and solve all the problems we have now. So it is not a matter of is it possible to, it is a question of can you do without doing so. The British left Nigeria with a fraudulent census. It was done by the British, and they used it to rig the election, to hand over to the caliphate in Nigeria. They did it for their own interest. But the caliphate haven't taken over power from the British. If they were enlightened enough for the benefit of Nigeria, they should have immediately begun steps based on a national vision that is good for Nigeria and all Nigerians to really begin to correct the errors inherited from the colonial masters for the whole Nigeria to move forward. But they didn't do that. What they did was, based on the falsehood they have gotten from the British, they have been fighting up to today to sustain it. But you cannot sustain falsehood. A foundation that is built on falsehood will not stand. Nigeria has never done census before. I said that in 2012. I repeat it again.
It is those comments such as those,
yes,
that got you so widely criticized, especially by the political elite.
Model.
Yes.
Criticism is for people who don't know what they are saying. I don't recognize those criticisms. The issue is that people should address what I have said. If we have done census before, show me the figure. I was the chairman of the National Population Commission. The census of 2006, I had the figures. There was no census. If there is census in Nigeria, you will first count Nigerians at the enumeration areas. Then you will now summarize the enumeration areas into the 200,000 localities in Nigeria and have what you call the compendium of localities. You will then add up the census at those localities and have census at the local government level. Then you have census at the state level, and then you have nation. But because they didn't do the census of 2006, by the time I became the chairman of the National Population Commission in 2012, there was still no compendium of localities. Because what happened was that the directors of national population got into a room and they said, what do you think the population is? What? Then they said, they took average, they said 140 million. They then sent people to Budu Cattle Ranch to now use the percentages that were used to divide it. They divide 52% north, 48% south. Then they began to use it to divide among the states, the figures, the fraudulent figures that they have always used. But when they stopped at local government, they cannot go to the village levels, the localities, because, and that is where the census should have started to build up. They built from this skyscraper roof and came to local governments and stopped.
The enumerators came to my house in 2006.
All those ones were later abandoned. It was for sure. There was no census. When I was the chairman of the National Population Commission, Professor Jega came to me to give him the compendium of localities, the real census figure from enumeration area to the 200,000 localities in order to do the electoral demarcation for have electoral wars. I told him we don't have it. It doesn't exist. So if you did census, how come it didn't exist? And it is trying to force this type of fraud to remain in Nigeria, that Nigeria is not going anywhere. And Nigeria will not go anywhere until you put justice, truth, equity and fairness into our country, because that's the only thing that will give you sustainable unity, peace and progress. So when I made that statement, I made it because it's correct. Professors have written a book on it. Everybody knows it. There is no Nigerian who doesn't know. You were quoting census figure here when we started. You don't know what the census figure is. Some people are quoting 200 million now. You've just quoted 160 to 170. They will quote IMF figure. They will quote World Bank figure. Nobody has done a census here for you to quote. So people are just making it up. And when you make it up, you cannot plan the economy. Ngozi is coordinating the economy. She has no data to coordinate the economy.
Do you regret,
so it won't work.
Do you regret saying all of those things at that time? Should you have kept those cards close to your chest and then just gone ahead to conduct?
How can I regret it and I'm still repeating it? If something is true,
maybe if you had kept
I know where you're coming. I know where you're coming from. If something is true, why don't you say it? Now, if I didn't say it, then it's like, I know what is true, I'm not saying it, then I'm going, when I get there, then I'm manipulating myself. That's not a decent behavior. And then maybe when you now get there, you say, oh, I will do it. Then somebody comes to say, oh, you won't do it because he has vested interest in it. And you resign at that point. You have wasted your time and you have wasted the time of the nation. I am not that type of character. When I went to Abuja, I told them in the presentation I did to the president that I will do a census that is accurate. That when I finish it, the census doesn't need to be accepted by anybody or the Council of State for it to be accurate. The census will accept itself because it is accurate. And anybody who challenges that is not accurate, I will say where. I will come and demonstrate that it is accurate. Truth is self-evident.
We ask that you please join us again after the break. Welcome back. So what did you learn from your time in government?
There is nothing to learn the way the federal government I served under works. There is nothing to learn. Governments all over the world are looking for how to begin to run the business of government the way private sector people run businesses. So I went to government, by the way, to impact private sector disciplines and competencies in the assignment I was given. That was why I was committed to it. That was why I was not playing politics with it. That was why I took my oath of office very seriously. But at the time, I couldn't believe what was happening. There was so much inefficiency. There was so much corruption. There was so much waste of time. People don't do the job they were hired to do. Recently, I'm hearing, oh, because oil price is down, we will reduce traveling. Do you have to wait for crisis to come before you do the normal things? You go and have 90% of federal budget on recurrent expenditure when you factor in corruption. And you have less than 10% for capital expenditure in a country where the infrastructure deficit is massive, where even if you spend all the budget on infrastructure development, 20 years, you are still not scratching it on the surface. And people will go and embezzle all this money on recurrent expenditure. And you say you have a National Assembly there, and they keep jumping up and down. A senator called me. I said, Chairman, I like what you said the other day. Can you come and talk to us in the Senate Committee on Planning and Finance? How we can make the capital expenditure 80% and recurrent expenditure 30%. I said, that's easy. Somebody like me, after being MD CEO of Nigerian Breweries, I'm chairman of you don't have to pay me salary. I'm happy to serve my country. But you can say, okay, we'll pay you 100,000 naira every month to put fuel in the car because I'm not supposed to use my money to do the basic run around. If you do all the commissions like that, you save a lot of money. The 2,000 MDAs, unnecessary MDAs, you collapse them into the constitutional bodies and the ministries. And you give the jobs to people who have the brain power to do the work. You save huge amounts of money. The National Assembly should change the constitution and become part-time. And all this stealing they're doing in the name of being legislators, you use it to develop the nation for the benefit of Nigerians who are suffering. Nobody, as I speak, knows the National Assembly salaries. People are keeping it secret. Why should such things be secret? And because such things are happening, then people have guts to do worse things. See, corruption. You cannot develop the country like that. It's not possible. The country will collapse on the heads of people and on the head of all of us if we continue to do that. So I didn't learn anything, and that was why I walked away. People say, were you fired? How can somebody who is not performing fire somebody who came with intention to do something good?
How can we place economic growth at the heart of Nigeria's efforts to unite the country?
For economic growth to have a unifying effect on the country, it must be inclusive. Basic Economics 101 says that if you have growth that generates employment and then maintains the fundamentals, stability in forex and in inflation, that the country will do well. That's not the economic growth we have. All these statistical growth they are quoting without data, they don't have the data. All the figures in Nigeria are wrong because there is no demographic data, there is no census data. They're all made up, they're all fraudulent. That Kano is more populated than Lagos is fraudulent. Don't you know where Kano is? You can go there and look at Kano and come and look at Lagos. People know these things and they keep quiet. I kept quiet myself, but when it was my duty as the chairman of national population, whose duty it was then to solve the mess. You cannot solve a condition you are sweeping under the carpet. You have to make it visible, engage people in a debate, which will enrich what we are doing, and then we'll do it. But I'm not going to say sweep it under the carpet, let's do it secretly. You cannot do it secretly because we were to do biometric census. Everybody will be counted biometrically and will produce the first national register. Even what NPC is doing now is fraud. Because you cannot give ID card to people unless you have a national population register that you will check that anybody who wanted ID card is a Nigerian. Now, if you go and take form and just fill anywhere, they give you ID card. Will you go to America or Britain and take form and fill and they give you their passport and ID card? So it's a nonsense that will collapse as soon as it's possible. Because facts are facts. Truth is self-evident. There is nothing anybody can do about it.
People have expressed worries about the fact that there are currently very few Nigerian CEOs heading the multinationals. What do you think is responsible for this seeming reversal of gains after the indigenization policy of the 1970s that led to the emergence of people like Dr. Molarale, Dr. Chris Kolade, and people like yourself later?
Good question. It is part of the failed leadership of the federal government. When I ran Nigerian breweries, I ran Nigerian breweries with 2 expatriates. Now I think they have up to 39 expatriates there. Who gave the quota system to have those 39 people? Who approved that 39 expatriates should come and do the job Nigerians are more qualified to do? I am the best CEO of Nigerian breweries to date. I'm a Nigerian. Go and check the records. After my retirement, Nigerian breweries is still running my strategy. If you read the annual report last year, it's still there. And I'm a Nigerian. I won 9 gold awards in Africa, Middle East when I was CEO for Nigerian breweries. So Nigerians can perform. So who gave the quota system for Nigerian breweries to have 39, 20-something expatriates? Because the people in the Ministry of Labor Interior, whoever gives it, they're no longer interested. All of them are focused on the president must get re-election. What is he getting the re-election for? What did he do with the first term he has? So, because things have spoiled, the Nigerians are shortchanged in the companies in Nigeria.
In your days, people spent years in one company and rose through the ranks. You did.
Yes.
But it is now recommended that people move from company to company to company. Which strategy is better for accelerated professional growth?
Every strategy that works for you is good for you. When you see a company that is good, it's easy to stay there and have a career. But if you join a company that is not good, or a company where your talents, you are not challenged to put in your best, of course you cannot grow there. Then you should change companies until you see where your talents can be used. But I was happy working in Nigerian breweries, and I still have fond memories of my Nigerian breweries days.
After your attempt at Imo governorship, you said you would not be throwing your hat back in the political ring. You also resigned from the National Population Commission after 16 months. Someone once told me that the political system in Nigeria is designed to keep good people out. But how then can you continue to blame those who do run for office and get to run things when you leave?
One of the reasons why it is good to vote out PDP from power is for PDP to go and reform itself and become a credible opposition party with a soul. Because PDP has gone to a level where their arrogance, complacency, make them do foolish things like encouraging criminals to take over the political space in the Southeast. People that they have their file, that they can go, they have gone to prison before and they can go to prison again, they encourage them. So when those people go from the Southeast to Abuja, they use them as houseboys. And if they don't want to be used as houseboys, they show them their file. Behave before we remove you. You have no file to show people like Festus Odumegwu. So PDP as a party sabotaged such people going into governance. We tried.
Should you give up?
I have not given up. You asked me, are you a card-carrying member of PDP? I said yes. But why am I supporting General Buhari? If you ask me that, I will answer. But it is good. But it is good for PDP to be voted out of office. So PDP will go and reform. Even the chairman of PDP the other day said it. PDP uses people, dumps them in. One of the reasons why the presidency needed 6 months is to go and be settling quarrels in the states where the governors are playing emperors.
You mean 6 weeks?
6 weeks. Why they ask for 6 weeks? By the way, they said at least 6 weeks. If they go from postponing for Jonathan to recover to the 7 cabals who think they own Nigeria, what they are planning to have an interim government, it will go beyond 6 weeks and then there will be confusion. And in the confusion, being soldiers, they will like it. They will then say, okay, well, let's have an interim government. But that is when they will know that Nigerians are not fool. My prayer is within that gap that APC secures General Buhari's life.
What kind of leadership does Nigeria require at this time in her history?
Nigerians require leadership like General Buhari. And I will give you 7 reasons. I'm not a Fulani man or from the Caliphate, he is. I'm not a soldier, he is. But leadership has nothing to do with where you're from or your ethnicity. Leadership has to do with who has the competence best to do the current problems we have in Nigeria. If I'm to interview General Buhari and President Jonathan, and I'm the one interviewing to get a CEO for Nigeria Incorporated, and you see the level of corruption in the system now, General Buhari's nature abhors corruption. You can predict that he will deal decisively more against corruption than President Jonathan. So you tick corruption, General Buhari tick, President Jonathan bad, given on his track record what has happened in the country. These are not studies in the papers. So people even now put 30 trillion. So corruption, anti-corruption, I will vote for General Buhari. Buhari has the personal example, the clout, the age, the wisdom to save Nigeria from itself and probably become the best president Nigeria has ever had. He has that potential.
You, like most people I've heard, have often blamed government for all the woes of the society. But are the followers completely blame this?
Modele. In a country where the government influences 99% of the economy, and you have probably half of the population no jobs, a large proportion, maybe 25%, they are not even in school to acquire skills. There are many professors who have PhDs, 10 PhDs, who have been marginalized in a society like Nigeria. And these highly educated people are prostrating before fools, criminals, because they have to eat. Survival is essential. So in a country like ours, leadership decides everything because the followers have been traumatized, dehumanized, victimized, marginalized, exploited. People don't care about them. That is why you need a leader that can work for the masses. That's why you need a leader that has the people of Nigeria in mind, like General Buhari does. Forget all the desperation of PDP and the nonsense they are saying. All the things they are saying about him as military leader are the qualities he needs as a good president of Nigeria as we speak. It is leadership that is important.
Is a Festus Odumegwu. We thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
And that's our program. Thanks for watching. You can tweet me your thoughts on today's program at ModeleSY or leave your comments on our website, channelstv.com, where you also see previous editions of the program View from the Top. I thank you again, and I wish you a wonderful day.